In a dark time known as 2020, when WWE feel that it is a better decision to have Braun Strowman gyrate with the New Day rather than have the monster demolish half of the roster, it is worth remembering that not every idea they introduce is immediately terrible. Some have actually been quite awesome, and fans have fully got behind many a new concept in the hope that it'll be around for the long run. Unfortunately, Vince McMahon has had a little tendency over the years to bury an idea simply because it was either not quite delivering what the boss expected, or due to the fact that he typically lost interest in his new toy. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 times WWE introduced something cool only to panic and take it away. Number 10. Fan-voted stipulations/outcomes. Long before every man, woman, child, or pet had a social media account to hurl abuse at their spandex-wearing heroes, WWE had the brainwave to allow their loyal following to have control over what would be taking place at 2004's inaugural Taboo Tuesday via polls on their website. However, after another Taboo Tuesday and a few Cyber Sunday pay-per-views, WWE seemed to lose a bit of interest in the notion, and aside from the odd Raw poll, they veered away from handing the genuinely quite exciting decision-making over to the watching faithful. There's been no real reason revealed as to why McMahon has still consistently produced online polls on WWE's Twitter and website without reopening the door for some crowd-chosen outcomes. So, hopefully, this rash decision to hold back on this pretty intriguing concept will be overruled soon enough. Number 9. Mixed Match Challenge. On the topic of WWE's social media presence, in recent times they decided to seriously engage with their audience on Facebook by introducing them to the Mixed Match Challenge in January 2018. At first, many recoiled at the idea of yet another throwaway show, but fans quickly realized that this program was actually being treated as a bit of a free hit by all those taking part. Sami Zayn and Becky Lynch were allowed to fully indulge in their charismatic personalities, and stars such as Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman managed to get themselves even more over with the WWE Universe. Yet, after the second season had reached its conclusion, the show was stolen away in the night. This was probably down to poor viewing figures. As the top stars got injured throughout the tournament, WWE seemed to lose interest in the show. And sadly, so did the fans. Number 8. The electric chair. With a microphone in their hand, the likes of Sami Zayn have the capacity to create magic on any given night. That is, when they're given the leeway to do so. However, as you're probably more than aware of at this point, most WWE stars don't often tend to be given this relaxed platform to let rip on Monday Night Raw or Friday Night Smackdown. That's why it was actually quite liberating to see Zayn be introduced as the first guest on the new electric chair segment on Raw in May 2019. With the fans in attendance being given a free platform, really, to ask whatever questions came to their minds, Zayn had no choice but to wing it and answer honestly in character. One particular outburst about AEW set the internet on fire. Vince McMahon clearly did not approve of the reaction to this segment and quickly pulled the plug on it. Well, it's nice while it lasted. Number 7. Smackdown Live's ranking system. If WWE were to fully stick to a ranking concept, as they attempted to in early 2018 with Smackdown Live, they would also have to establish early on what the benefit would be of placing high on the top 10 list. If you stayed in the mix for a few weeks or even got to the top of the rankings on either the men or women's tables by the end of the month, perhaps that would open the door up for a championship opportunity for that star at the next pay-per-view. The aforementioned Smackdown top 10 list allowed the roster to vote for who they believed deserved a spot in the rankings, and in doing so it felt a little bit more like a popularity contest. However, there was definitely potential in the idea, and if WWE had introduced a scoring system based on wins and losses, the list could have proved to be a success over time. Instead, Vince McMahon scrapped the idea quickly after its inception, and we were back to second guessing who was rightfully next in line for a title match. Number 6. No automatic rematches. The automatic rematch had become such a staple of Western wrestling that WWE fans had genuinely come to accept that if a champion had lost their belt at an event, it would only be a matter of time before they were gifted that inevitable rematch. So when the McMahon family wandered down the ramp in December 2018 on an episode of Monday Night Raw and announced that automatic rematches would be no more, a brave new world was briefly unleashed onto the WWE Universe. That was until WWE did what they always do and panicked when they were forced into thinking outside the box to produce new programs on a more regular basis. On a recent episode of Monday Night Raw, Rey Mysterio was gifted a rematch for the United States Championship after losing it just a few weeks earlier to Andrade at Madison Square Gardens. For reasons. Stick to making your challengers earn their title shots, and fans will invest in their pursuit of the gold that little bit more. Number 5. Immediate post-match interviews. There's something undoubtedly unique about seeing a wrestler take part in a backstage interview so soon after being involved in an extremely taxing match. Yet WWE fleetingly went one step further. After the 2016 brand split, the company allowed their stars to be interviewed inside of the ring, literally straight after their contest had ended, and this led to some memorable exchanges. So the concept looked as though it could have some legs if used in the right way. However, minus the odd re-emergence, fans haven't been treated to these spur-of-the-moment debriefs on a regular basis for some time. It seems as though Vince has done a Vince once more, and instead of sticking with a promising notion in order to allow it time to succeed, he killed the fledgling idea before it ever had a chance to fully get over. Number 4. The 2016 draft format. Speaking of the 2016 brand split, WWE were actually onto a winner with this version of the draft, weren't they? Using Smackdown as the platform for the one-night event, fans were chomping at the bit to see which brand each of their favourite talents would end up on. The fact that Raw and Smackdown's commissioners/general managers were given the luxury of handpicking and announcing their roster selections on the show only added to the authentic feel of the concept. Yet, despite this 2016 format being quite successful and leading to incredible crowd-popping moments, Finn Balor's inclusion being a standout, WWE opted to scrap the idea in favour of the clunky 2-day superstar shake-up a year later. This felt like a panicky, spur-of-the-moment decision to revamp the draft as a sparkly new commodity in order to try and make it feel fresh and distinct? It definitely did the latter, but it was distinctly crap in comparison to the 2016 system, which had worked so well. Number 3. Commissioner/general manager dynamic. Now, WWE often rightly get lambasted for overloading their product with too many authority figures which are hell-bent on chastising their rosters. Yeah, rightly so. Yet, that doesn't mean that the company are incapable of creating figures who can effectively lead a brand without overstepping the boundaries. Case in point, Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan struck up a legitimately fantastic partnership as the ship steerers of SmackDown Live from 2016 to 2018. The commissioner/general manager positions meant that Bryan would be given a more hands-on role in setting up matches and overseeing the day-to-day aspects that went into keeping the show from capitulating. Meanwhile, McMahon only really popped up when an important situation needed dealing with, and he actually felt like a bit of a big deal when he turned up on the show. Those were the days. Paige was given the GM mantle for an extended spell after Bryan remarkably came out of retirement before the concept was scrapped completely. WWE obviously felt that fans were rebelling against the idea of having these figures in such positions of prominence on weekly television. However, instead of trying to rediscover what made the commissioner/GM partnership work so well on SmackDown, we're not going to mention Raw, WWE opted to quickly scrap the entire format and went in a completely different direction post WrestleMania 35. Number 2. Talking Smack. The ludicrous decision to get rid of Talking Smack didn't make sense. Simple as that. WWE had a panel-style show where stars who perhaps weren't given the time to broadcast their points of view on the main program had a chance now to cut freestyle promos and garner genuine fan support. The Miz even managed to turn himself into one of the hottest commodities in the company, simply by calling out co-host Daniel Bryan on probably the most famous episode of the short-lived riot. If WWE had just kept Renee Young on the show and maybe even drafted in someone like Paige or even CM Punk in the Fox WWE landscape to helm the creation alongside her, instead of murdering another concept just because they felt a bit uneasy about the unscripted nature of the show, there perhaps wouldn't have even been a need to invent WWE backstage. Number 1. Ambrose Asylum match. We only ever got one iteration of this match, but let's be honest, it was a lot cooler than any other weird stipulation that had been introduced over the last couple of years, and you know what? I, for one, quite liked it. WWE's Ambrose Asylum involved a variation of weapons being hung from the top of a steel cage. Yet, the match between Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho at Extreme Rules 2016 didn't lean into the concept's extreme potential enough, and despite Chris Jericho's gruesome thumbtack bump, the whole thing just felt like a bit of a missed opportunity. However, instead of trying to reintroduce the match further down the line in a different context and allowing an alternative mix of superstars to go at it inside of the unique structure, you guessed it, WWE did what they always do. If it doesn't work once, panic and lock it away forever. We can still pray for a potential Fiend versus Daniel Bryan Asylum match further down the line, but don't get your hopes up. And that is our list. Know of any other cool things WWE have introduced only to panic and take away? Let us know in the comments section below, and why not head over to whatculture.com to read some of our other articles. I've been Gareth, and I'm sure that I'm gonna see you soon. See you later.